Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Freeing Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Dukeman, and this week I have with me Spencer Hardin. How are you doing, Spence?
I'm doing good, man. I'm good. Thanks for reaching out and having me on, man. I'm super excited about this. I'm not a big not real good at this, man. So we're gonna see what we got. So
Yeah, we'll just roll with it. It'll be a good time. It's good to see you again. It's been
yeah,
shoot, I don't know, 2 weeks, I
yeah.
guess.
Two weeks, man. Yeah. Since got to hang out there in Utah, which was super cool, man. Y'all got a really cool spot out there for sure.
Yeah,
Good landscape.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
So, Spencer, let's just we'll just start with telling us your background. Tell us about
Yeah, man.
yourself.
So let's see. I was a fireman since 2014. Got started early. I was early on. Went to college for a computer networking degree. Kind of went up in the ranks of that, man. And I started here in Louisville, Kentucky. Moved to Cleveland, Ohio. I was doing a job up there and working in a little high rise, 9 to 5 in the cubicle. And man, honestly, I just knew it wasn't for me. I would look out of my office and see people on fire trucks, and I was like, man, I really that's where I need to be. And I ended up leaving there, coming back home, starting in construction work to um, while I went through drill school. I signed up for a local fire department, got started in 2014 doing that. And then I got hired in November of 15, going full time. And then shortly after that, decided to, having that 24/48 schedule. I really need to do something on my days off. So I was looking around. At the time, I'd bought a house, and I started pressure washing that, and I was like, man, this is something that I could do. And my buddy Steve, he had a pressure washing little business going, and he was doing lines and ponds, and he was doing all kinds of stuff. And I asked him a couple questions, and I was like, yeah, man, this is something that I think that I could do. And so I started the business, first response pressure washing, like pretty much right after that was in 2018. So I guess it was about three years into my career that before I actually started pulling the trigger on something. But
Nice.
yeah, man, yeah, I've done that up until recently. I got sick back in January of this year. That kind of allowed. I was diagnosed with a autoimmune disorder called Guillain Barre Syndrome, which pretty much my nervous system attacked my immune system. So it kind of took me away from the firehouse. Lost my ability to walk and talk and kind of do all that, but still kind of in recovery. Actually doing a lot better, but it kind of forced me out of the fire department realm, which is kind of a blessing in disguise, because the business, um, my pressure washing company was starting to kind of go in the direction of me having those conversations with myself of saying, okay, do I stay in or do I go? What would life look like, without the firehouse? But God kind of answered those questions for me, and kind of forced me to take off. And then myself, my business partners, Steve, who I mentioned, we started a Christmas light installation company last year. So this is our second year doing that, and yeah, man, we're just rolling with it. And so now I'm a full time entrepreneur. But yeah, man, I did close to 10 years in the fire service. So I was saying it's nothing like your story, man. I haven't been out, jumping around doing wildfires or anything like that. And but yeah, man, it was a really cool ride, and I was thankful for the time that I had in it. And yeah, man, so it's me.
Nice. Yeah, so I mean it's gonna be a big shift for you probably. Like once you
Oh yeah.
made the jump, that was probably a big shift because we do tend to be like so attached to everybody in the firehouse. It's that second family.
Oh yeah. Well, definitely, man. And honestly, it's kind of like one of those, like that's your identity.
Mhm.
That's who you are as like you're a fireman. It's I was always known as Spencer. Oh, well, what do you do? I'm a fireman. Um, that's something I've always been, and that's something that with us, I think that's as a fireman, yourself, like that's who you are. Like it's hard to get out of there. So I'm struggling with that still because life looks different whenever you're home every single day, sleeping in bed every night. Because whenever you're gone 24 hours at a time, you're trying to play catch up on that on your first off day. And especially if you're running a business, I mean, it's just it's nonstop going. So I mean, it's been crazy. I mean, I've been out since January, and I feel like I'm still adjusting. So yeah, it's good, man. It's all good.
Yeah, the first time that I escaped back in, oh, what was it, like 2013, 2012, something like that. It was 2013. It took a good year before I
Yeah,
was just kind of like, okay, this is my life.
yeah,
And then of course, like you jump back into it, and it's almost like instantaneously, like you're
sure.
like just back with the flow. But it takes some time to adjust out and kind of
Yeah.
get used to the real world and not having to wake up in the middle of the night, not having to sleep in a bed for a night and then go back to your bed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and expect I mean, especially just just like that, man. Sleep schedules. Like, man, I didn't have a normal sleep schedule for for 10 years because whenever you're at the firehouse, you're always turned on. Like
Mhm.
it's never off button. Like you can lay down at typical bedtime, but man, like you're never sleeping deep. Because you just know that that pager is going to go off in any second, and you're going to have to jump up and go 0 to 100, whether you're picking up an old lady off the floor because you fell out of bed, or you're cutting a kid out of the car, or pulling kids from burning fires, or whatever the case may be, man. Like you have to be ready mentally. So, yeah, man, it's still hard for me to sleep some nights, man. It's been, I mean, since January. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy, man. But yeah, I mean, I just truly feel like um, I'm still adjusting. I mean, there's been days where I'm just like, yeah, I'm just not that anymore. I truly I miss the brotherhood of the guys, man. But I was literally just having this conversation like 2 nights ago, and somebody was like, "Yeah, man, do you miss it?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I do." But I think it's literally just the chaos that I miss. You know, but it's not just somebody bumping down or like bruising their leg. I mean, I think it was the fires, the adrenaline, the nonstop going and cutting somebody out of a car, just something chaos going. You're eating dinner with your boys, and next thing you know, like shit's hitting the fan. You're like, what is going on? But like, dude, that's where I felt at peace. And it sounds crazy, but we talk about Tulane kind of like being the warrior in the garden.
Mhm.
Um, that's where I felt like I was like a warrior in the garden, or like flames going over my head, and I'm going into a burning building where everybody else is running out. Like I just felt at peace. I felt like at bay in that. So now I'm still trying to find that avenue, for
Yeah.
uh, but it's good, man. I got an amazing girlfriend, got 2 kids, and it's a whole different life. Being home and being able to, see him go to sleep at night and wake up in the morning and take him to school and like, do the business thing. So it's a whole different chapter, man. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that I didn't miss it because it was a big part of my life. It was something that I always wanted to do since I was a kid. I mean, my mom used to like, she heard fire trucks, and at first, whenever I was a kid, I'd jump on my bike and I'd just go, and she knew if she heard sirens, she could come find me. I'd be about 5 or 6 houses back from the firehouse or from the fire truck, just watching what was going on. And then as she kind of caught on to that, man, she started feeding into it. She'd hear a siren, she'd like, "Hey, come on, let's go jump in the car, let's go." So like she would help that, and it was really funny because like as I got older and actually became a fireman, she I was a first generation fireman, so my mom and dad, they were just like, okay, like my mom was terrified. She always said, I don't know why this came about, but she said, "Oh, you're just going out to get ice cream with your friends." Anytime I was at the firehouse, she was like, especially in our hometown, that's where I started. And so
Mhm.
anytime she heard sirens and she knew I was on duty, she would always be asking what was going on. And then where I got employed was about 25, 30 miles away from home. So she didn't really, she would see something on the news and she'd be like, "Were you there?" And I was like, "Yeah." And that's just where it would stay. I never really got into like a lot of details with mom and dad, just because it was just like, nah, we're good. But if dad wanted to know, I'd tell him, but I would never share all the details with mom. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really know where the hell I was going with that. But yeah, it's just being that identity, and like, and now living in a different chapter with the family. That's a super part of life. It's really cool part of life as well. I'm adjusting to that. Um, and I think one of the biggest things that I've realized of being outside of that space is how people's problems aren't really big problems. You know what I mean? And like, it's hard for me to, like, in my mind, be like, okay, well, they don't get, they don't understand what we do or what we did or what we see or what we go through mentally, physically, whatever. So, they think, their problems aren't really big problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to have, I'm adjusting to that still. But I think that'll take time, man, just with anything. But it was good, man. It was a big chapter of my life. I enjoyed it. I loved it. Um, yeah, man. I think God closes chapters and opens another ones for a reason. So I'm trusting him in that, and I'm just full fledged in the business thing, being playing the dad role, and just doing the business thing, man. And it's a really cool experience. So I get
Nice.
to experience all of that. Which, I mean, I was actually married before, um, and so, but that didn't work out, and it was, everything happens for a reason, man. So it's all good, and and I embrace things, and I roll forward, and I'm just embracing this new chapter of life, man. It's really cool. So yeah,
Excellent.
yeah,
That's good. I mean, it's good to just be able to roll with things, and because you don't
yeah,
always get to know why things happen, but
sure,
just accept that they happen for a reason and that it's part
yeah,
of God's plan and
yeah,
go with it.
and, yeah, and that's it, man. Because at the end of the day, man, everything's already written, brother. You know what I mean? Like, our plans already written. It's all good. Like, having that experience, man. And here's the thing, um, man. Whenever I got sick in January, like, I was fully, unaware. Like, it was crazy to, like, hear doctors say, like, hey, man, like, this is really bad. Like, we don't know. Like, we've never seen it this bad in somebody your age. You could be paralyzed. We don't know. Like, you're like an anomaly, and you may not be able to walk again, and not be able to talk again. At one time they were like, man, if it continues, like, here's the thing, like, we're going to put you on a ventilator. Like, we're gonna monitor you, but we just don't know. And man, I gotta be honest with you, man. Like, hearing doctors tell you that whenever you have zero control of what's going on is a lot different than saying, hey, I accept that I'm about to run this building and I may not come out. It's a
Yeah.
lot different. My terms, it's my choice, right? And I've
Yep.
already made good with that. Like, I'm good. Like, I know that this is my job. This is what I signed up for. I will lay my life down for anybody, any of my brothers or sisters on the rig, or anybody that I'm going in there for. Like, I am a-okay with that. But man, like, doing something that I had zero control over, because just as well as I do, man, going into a fire, like, our training kicks in, like, your just your instincts, everything with your brothers and sisters on your side, like, like, you somewhat, like, you don't have control of the conditions, but like, you're training, you're good, you're going in there, what needs to be done to get everybody out safely. You know what I mean? You can put water on the fire, you can breach a door, you can do this, you can do that, you can ventilate and help out. But man, like, when something happens inside of your body, like an immune disorder or cancer or something like that, bro, that's a hell of a lot scarier looking down death's barrel, than running into a burning building. So, man, that really put life in perspective for me. And so, dude, and now I'm just like, dude, I got another opportunity. So everything that happens. Like, I used to worry a lot what people thought and what they say and how they feel about me. But dude, at the end of the day, man, as long as, like, I know my intentions are pure and what I do and how I treat people, and that's all that matters, bro. I have a really small circle, and I truly now know, like, the true meaning of, like, hey, man, four quarters is way better than 100 pennies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you and I used to put so much energy into people that wouldn't put it, give it in return, and they used to bother me, man. But now I'm just like, dude, I got a small group. I'm good. I got people that love me. I got people who care for me. Like, outside of that, like, everybody else is just white noise, man. Like, I'm just doing my thing, living my life, and I got a second chance at it, dude. So
Yeah.
it's good. Really put perspective on it though, man. Like that whole scenario, it was it was wild, dude. So yeah, man. So
Yeah, it is wild thing. And I don't think many people, I mean, I guess at some point in life we might all experience that, but
yeah,
not necessarily at a younger age. And to just kind of, I think I would have to think that probably played a big role in you just trusting when, you weren't able to go back to work
sure.
because
Yeah,
of it, that this was the path. And certainly, I mean, fortunately, like, I mean, you've built this business and you're already looking at it from that
yeah.
possibility of, do I need to jump and just do this full time?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, man. Because I don't know if spoke about it or not, man. But like my doctors, they still said, that there's hope, man. Like I was pretty much just like a miracle to them. They were just like, we can't understand how you're walking, how you're talking. Like we just don't get it. We can't put it like based on this computer of what's it's saying compared to what you're doing. Um, we just can't put it through it. So, in the back of my mind, I thought maybe that there was going to be an opportunity that I would be back,
Mhm.
in the fire service. But, unfortunately, the fire department or the city that I worked for, they made that decision for me and they terminated me while I was still sick. But, man, honestly, like at this point, like I've let all that shit go, man. I was just like, look, it's everything happened for a reason. The way that it happened, um, did it happen the way that I thought it would happen? No. But man, you just gotta roll with it. Just roll with the punches and keep on going and accept it for what it is, and just keep on trucking, dude. And that's kind of like where I'm at with it. So it's all good.
Yeah. And I think that sentiment's important, especially with, everything that we deal with in the fire service. And
Sure.
that, you know, uh, I know for me, like there were certainly times where like I didn't have that roll with the punches anymore. I was just kind of like
Yeah.
survival mode almost. You get to a point where you've just dealt with so much and you're just mentally drained
Oh yeah.
and exhausted, and you'll get these runs. For some reason it always comes in waves, it seems like, where you just get this rash of
Yeah.
bad calls. It's not just one and then it's like, oh no, no big deal, now we're just helping grandma get back in her chair. It's just,
Yes.
you get these waves of just the
One.
shit
Another.
storm. and
Yeah.
and it's hard to stay in a good mental space
Sure.
when you hit through those. And but having that type of mentality can certainly help and get you through it. And for you, I mean, you certainly, that amount of time in the fire service, you had those experiences
Oh yeah.
and went in
Yeah.
those waves. How did that go for you? How did you work through those things?
Man, to be honest with you, man, early on, I mean, it kind of drove me into the fire service, man. But it's I learned to deal with it early on before I even joined, honestly. And the reason why I knew like like firefighting was my calling, because man, it was shit, dude. I think it was like 2013, um, or something, man. But man, we there was a car wreck on the interstate right here by my house, and I was coming up the ramp right behind it, and this kid, he had that man, he was trying to do some like Need for Speed stuff, man, and I saw him. I mean, he hit it and he was going up the turn, and he like tried to go underneath this semi and like literally do like Need for Speed underneath the semi shit. Like, yeah, dude, this was like 2000. Dude, it had to be 2013. It had to be 2013, 2014. It was in September. I know that. I just can't remember the year. But man, like this kid went under and he went sideways and clipped it in the truck, like drug him. Well, dude, it instantly caught fire on the back in the trunk. And like I was in a car like right behind him. I just like stopped and I just got out and just ran. And man, apparently like at first whenever I ran up to the car, I thought that he already got out because there was a door that was already open. Well, apparently he had a buddy that was in the passenger seat. Well, he bailed because he had warrants on him. Well, I got up there, man, and this kid was like pinned. I mean, he was uh, the the back of the trailer was like pinned up against him, and he was just like turned, but he was so smashed, like I couldn't get him. Like he was like screaming. The car was on fire, and man, it's crazy. Like I haven't talked about this for a while, but man, this is really what kind of started the whole thing. But make a long story short, man, he ended up catching fire. The car caught on fire. I was wrapped around him, trying to pull him out, and he was screaming like, I mean, I was looking at him like I'm looking at you. And, I can still remember his face, and I was pulling on him, couldn't get him out, man. And like literally, the fire came up the back of the seat around him, caught him on fire, and dude, he just started screaming. At that time, like, uh, dude, like this cop like grabbed me and like threw me over the guardrail, and dude, the car exploded, and I sat there for 5 minutes and listened to this kid scream, and dude, like it shook me. It really did. It shook me for a really long time, and we've talked about God, man. Already. So yeah, we're kind of going all over the place, but man, dude, I felt this weight on my shoulder. Like I was just sitting there. I remember, dude, I was just like bawling. I had my hand, like my face, like buried in my hands, and I was just crying because I could just hear this kid, and I was just trying to make it stop because like there was nobody around, and I mean there was this cop here. I mean, but there's so much shit going on. The fire department was coming, but they weren't there yet. And what was 5 minutes felt like 5 hours, and I was just sitting there, next to this guardrail, just covering my ears, trying to like not hear this kid scream because he's still screaming bloody murder, but he's burning alive. There's nothing I could do for him. Yeah, dude, and like he I felt this weight, man, kind of just like, hey, it's gonna be okay. You know what I mean? It's gonna be fine. I heard his voice. He's like, it was literally felt like a grown man's arm was around me, right? And and I was just sitting there and like I felt like this relief, and I got up, and my girlfriend at the time, she was like, hey, like like she didn't get close. I mean, it was just a thing, and this I was like, who was around? She was like, who were you talking to? I was like, somebody put like their arm around me, and like I felt like they were like, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. And she was like, nobody was ever around you, and I was just like, man, that's God, man. But like moving forward from that, like I knew from that point going forward, I knew that my entire life, that's what I was destined to be. You know what I mean? Because I didn't think about anything except for rendering aid to him. I didn't know, and I didn't know him from Adam. I didn't know his story. I didn't know what he was doing. Later on, fast forward till March of 2014, whenever I signed up for the fire department. They brought me into the interview room, like, and they saw me. They were like, hey, you were on that run, like, how you doing? That really messed up a lot of our guys. And I was like, yeah, man. I mean, that was it was something else, and but I ended up having to go to counseling. Man, I mean, I went and talked to somebody about it because move up into that point, man, I didn't realize like what you know I didn't realize what that was like and what I felt, but I felt so much like guilt because I couldn't do anything for him. But then, like, dude, I just had to realize, like, dude, I mean, it's not that's that's not up to you. You know what I mean? Like, in as firemen, I think like a lot of people, like we try to, we try to play God. We're like, oh, sometimes we're put in decisions, we're put in situations whether we pretty much, we're if we gotta, tag and bag somebody, man, like, or if we pull up to a scene and like, this person's not gonna make it, but this person over here has a better chance. Like we have to play that. I
Mhm.
I've had to play that role in my career. Um, and dude, I mean, like just sometimes like you just have to uh you have to put the macho man aside. You know what I mean? You got to put that ego aside. You have to talk to somebody. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of like that's like a stigma in the firehouse, and also people don't really understand that firemen struggle from PTSD as well, and like they just think that that's a military thing or a police thing because they're involved in shootings and they see a lot of death, and nobody really points in the direction for firemen, man. But I think it's a huge issue across the entire fire department and the fire service as a general. Not only from the standpoint that it's being looked over, but guys, they don't feel like they can talk to somebody, or like they can't come back to the firehouse and talk to their guys. I mean, of course, everybody's like, "Hey, man, you good," but inside that firehouse, everybody's, "Ah, yeah, no, I'm good, bro. I'm good, man." Then you go home and you lash out at your wife and kids, you just have trouble. So like one of the biggest things for me is real early on, man. From that experience, so before I even got on the fire service, I reached out and I talked to somebody, and I remember how much that helped. So going on throughout my career, man, anytime that I had trouble, like even as a fireman, if I had trouble. But still, man, early on, I was like brand new. I'll be honest with you, man. The first couple of years, I was the same way. I wouldn't talk to nobody at the firehouse, just because it's macho. You don't. Everybody's good. You just put on that armor and just keep going. Like I'm a badass, man. I always had a counselor outside the firehouse, man, that I would talk to, or have that mentor that I would talk to. So from that standpoint, I truly believe that it is really good that you talk to somebody. But man, I mean, even and this is another reason how God works, man, because uh, uh, I I was promoted. I was in a leadership role as a sergeant, so I was a company officer. And man, we for whatever reason in the last like year that I rode, we just made a lot of like bad runs, man. Just whether it was kids committed suicide, shot themselves, or kids swallowing pills and killing themselves with pills. Um, it was just odd, man. I was just like, dude, I'm 30 minutes from my house, and like there's this all this chaos shit that's going on. So yeah, man, I made some pretty rough runs in the last year or so that really mess with me. Um, because then I mean, from a company officer standpoint too, man, that's really a lot of weight that
Mhm.
you carry. You're not only just thinking about like your well being and your mindset and your physical capabilities. Like you got to think about your guys and your girls. Like I had an amazing crew. I had so I was always thinking about them, especially on these hard runs. I would have to bottle up my shit just so to make sure that they're good to get through their own shit. And I mean, there was even times where I knew what we were going to, and my crew, they got kids. You know what I mean? They got kids, and if I know that we're going to be the first one there, I know it's going to be bad, and I know that if we can avoid everybody from dealing with that, then I'm going to give the opportunity to my guys, and I did that, and I would always take care of people, man. And, so that's one thing I truly miss about it. But yeah, mainly just talking, and and that was the one thing that I always did as a company officer, because I'm not going to say I didn't have that coming up, because I had great mentors, great leaders in the fire service, but that was never a thing. It was never like, hey man, come in and talk to me. Like I know we just went through some shit. Like you okay? If not, it's totally cool. Like let's talk about it. Let's work it out. It was just, and honestly, man, those conversations could have happened. But as a young fireman, you're like, nah, man, I'm good. But I wish that stigma would leave the fire service, because over the course of years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, like that's darkness that
Mhm.
you're holding on, and so you definitely gotta get rid of that, because if not, like and that's why a lot of these people, a lot of these guys, man, I mean, they go through their entire career, they see all this shit and they bottle it all up, and then eventually, I mean, they don't know how to deal with it once they're not around, because a lot of us, like, we deal with that trauma and shit. Like you were like, okay, we just bottled up while we're home. We took care of wife, kids, whatever. Come back to the firehouse, and then it's just boom. It's just stacking, stacking, stacking.
Mhm.
Especially like you said, man, you go through waves of just a lot of bad shit. You're like, dude, my bottle's overflowing. I don't know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. For me, I was just always very vocal, man. I talked about it. Um, you know, Steve, him and I, we rode together for years at Shepherdsville. And him and I, man, we would talk about stuff. Um, but just mainly just talking through it. Not bottling up. That's super important. So I mean, I highly recommend anybody that's in the fire service or military or police just to talk about it, man. It's not cool to express your feelings, because at the end of the day, man, we got a heartbeat and we're human. We're human like anybody else. We are wired the same. It don't matter how much money you got, how much degrees or letters at the end of your name. It don't matter what your rank is, dude. Like everybody has a heart, everybody's got a soul, and bro, you got to protect that at all costs, because if not, like you'll lose it, and you'll either end up dead or drinking yourself away. And I mean, you might as well be dead at that point. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
yeah, that's my
Yeah.
that's
Big time.
tough.
There's a lot of guys and gals that they end up dead inside, and you can see it
Oh
over
yeah,
time. And it's sad to see when those people, your coworkers and people
sure.
that even people that were above you in rank that mentored you coming up, and you're just watching them, and you can tell that they're just in a bad spot, but they have to make that choice to do
Oh
something
yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, because that's the thing, man. You can sit there and say, "Hey, man, you okay?" Like, "Hey, talk to me if you need to. I'm here." You can say that to your blue in the face, man. But if somebody don't want to accept that and make that first step, like there's nothing you can do for them, man.
Mhm.
You just gotta love them from afar, man, and just hope that whenever that day happens, like you're there for them. But yeah, man, it's all you can really do. I mean, if people don't want help, you can't force it upon them. And I just think that's such like a big stigma, man, within the fire service, and from a man standpoint, I just wish we could get away from that. And I'm not saying like bring make a bunch of soft asses in the firehouse, because like man, you need gangsters in the fire service. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? You need dudes to
100%.
get in, get done, and don't think about shit. And but at the end of the day, man, you have to be that warrior in the garden to keep your mind at bay and to talk about shit. And because if not, man, you're just gonna lose yourself. But and I think honestly, man, the fire service is kind of going in a different direction to where people are like, oh man, let's not go in, let's not do this, and they're making it unsafe, an entirely different thing. But when they need to be doing is bringing people in and say, "Hey, man, it's all good. Let's talk about some shit. It's okay to be aggressive. It's okay to be this. It's okay to be that. But you're gonna see some shit. You're gonna do some shit that normal humans don't do, and that's okay. But like, let's just talk about it. Make sure that we're good up here, so we can stay clear and do our job. But yeah, man. But
Yeah, 100%. I always think of it like the pressure cooker effect. Like pressure
100%, yeah,
cookers have that little release on top that
yep,
when there's so much pressure, it just starts pushing that out.
yep,
And we're like that, but as humans, especially men, we're stubborn. So when that thing starts hissing, we're just like, nope, fuck that.
yeah, yeah. We're
Stop
like,
it.
might give me some duct tape. Let's
Yeah,
duct tape it down because I ain't trying to hear it.
yeah, yeah. We're just trying to avoid that. It's annoying, it's loud, just make it go
Yeah,
away. And in the
yeah,
end, that pressure just continues to build up.
yeah,
And
100%.
if you don't release it in that controlled manner, it's going to decide when it goes, and it's just going
Oh
to
yeah,
go violently.
yeah, yeah.
And so that's why it's so important to do those things and talk about it, even though it's
Yep.
uncomfortable and you don't want to hear it, you don't want to think it. You just
Oh
have to
yeah.
be like, okay, I just got to let a little bit of this out in a healthy way, just
Yep.
just
A
steady
little bit at a
release,
time.
a little bit at a time. Where instead, when we think we're releasing it, we're like going out with the boys after a shift and getting really drunk and partying, doing
Yeah.
stupid stuff. And in
Yeah.
reality, that's just making it worse. You're just using
Oh
that
man.
to as like duct tape on that
Oh
pressure
yeah.
relief
Oh
valve.
yeah. I mean, you're literally just pushing it down, and eventually, dude, that thing's gonna erupt, and you're gonna be in deep shit. Because, yeah, man, I've done my fair share of trying to mask problems with alcohol, or just whatever, going out with the boys or just distracting myself or whatever the case
Mm.
may be. But man, you can't run from that shit, man. You can't run from things in your mind and mindset and shit. You just got to deal with it, man. And um, it's so yeah, it's a PTSD and like stuff like that, man. Is a very interesting thing. Because man, if you don't, because people can mask it really well.
Mm.
Honestly, like I've learned how to deal with it. But man, I've been depressed. You know what I mean? I've had those thoughts before. I mean,
Mm.
nobody's perfect. I mean, that's just me being real. It's me
Mm.
being raw. I've had those thoughts. Um, and but at the end of the day, man, I'm a very positive person. I'm very I'm all that. And but I mean, people struggle, dude. I mean, and honestly, like I'm a lot better than I was. But people struggle, and if you don't get help and you don't talk to people, it's just gonna be a pressure cooker, man. The relief valve is gonna go, and it's not gonna be able to stop. So
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to do all those things.
sure.
And maybe it's not even like some people, it's not even necessarily the talking, although I think that's almost 100% a component of it. But I mean, I've come across guys that just do all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like I've met some guys that they're like, man, I would get home and they would always drive us a certain route home because it was like the longest route.
Yeah.
And then they would get home and they would just sit in the car in the
Yeah.
driveway for like
Yeah.
10-15 minutes and they would just close their eyes and breathe.
Yeah. Just
And then,
decompress.
yep. And then they'd go in the house. And that was their way of just like, I'm not at work anymore. I'm leaving all this bullshit at the door.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to go home and be a husband and a dad, you know, and do that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And, for them, it was a very conscious effort. It didn't just happen, you know?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I think all of it's a very conscious effort because nobody wants to go talk to somebody. Nobody wants
Right.
to do any of these things. We all want to just get the easy route, right? And
Yeah.
just have it just take care of itself.
Yeah.
But those conscious efforts, those are the things that actually get you through it. And it's finding what works for you. It's
Yeah.
finding uh what is the most least destructive path that you can take to
Sure.
be well and be happy and be comfortable with the things that you've seen and that you've done,
Yeah. No,
and
absolutely.
accept them.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things that it took, and that's the thing, man. Like, I mean, there was always going to be those runs that bothered you no matter what. It was the kids, it was the drunk driver that killed an innocent family. It was those runs that stuck with you. But a lot of times in how, because man, like the stuff that I remember, there were tons of runs that were a lot worse that were really bad. That but man, you really just had to come to terms with it whenever you decide, like, okay, hey, this is going to be my career path. This is what I'm going to do for a living. You have to come to terms of like, look, man, like you did not cause this wreck. I mean, you did
Mm.
not cause this destruction or this tragedy. You were trained to show up and do what you can in the best of your ability to help this family or help this person the best of your ability. But man, it's out of your hands. I mean, it's not necessarily out of your hands as far as like the outcome, but like you did not cause this. So
Mm.
you were just there to attempt to make it better. Whatever that outcome may be, just know that, just be sure, like mentally, that you are, whenever you show up, you are physically and mentally ready to perform the best of your abilities to help that person. And I think that's why, like, the biggest thing, it always blew my mind, man, whenever people in the fire service are like so far out of weight, man, like overweight, and don't take care of themselves and stuff like that. And like, granted, dude, I'm not trying to sit there and beat drums or do whatever. But I mean, I've gained weight. I've been whatever, fat while I was while I was there. But man, like I always made sure I was good enough and capable of doing my job. Because literally there's people that don't train. I mean,
Mm.
for them. You are literally whenever that page goes off, people are relying on you to show up and give them their best effort. Like, it is not their fault if you show up untrained. It is not their fault if you show up, out of shape, and like you can't perform your job and your duties to take care of them, because they're calling you because they need help.
Yep.
And if you sign on that dotted line and you swear in as a fireman or police officer or serviceman or army or whatever, you signed up to deliver your best package whenever you're needed. You know what I mean? And I just it blows my mind sometimes, man. Like with the fire service and just guys, they just don't, man. They don't practice on it, and then they show up and they fumble with popping a door,
Yeah.
small. At that time, it's not time to play. It's time to show up and help somebody. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And I don't know for sure, but I would suspect that, you know, the ones that don't take it seriously when they deal with the bad stuff, that's got to eat them up a little bit. That's got to
Oh yeah,
be that's got to be something that they recognize that kind of further pushes them down the hole, maybe than just, I mean, I know some people who they just seem to always thrive in the environment, and stuff just didn't seem to ever affect them. Or
yeah.
maybe they're just better at hiding it or just never talked about how they dealt with it.
Oh yeah,
But there is certainly, as a whole, we've just done, the fire service has just been that way where we're just saying like, hey, I'm good. Like,
yeah.
it's all,
Like, so, that's all
and
good.
and
And
it's I've talked to guys all over the country, and it's the same
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not just Kentucky, it's not just California, Utah. I mean, it's and that's where that stigma has to change, and we have to just really encourage everybody to take a different course on these things and just actually say, hey, I'm not. But then at the same time, you have to show up, you have to train and
Yeah.
be ready for anything that happens. And that's really what I think creates some of the resiliency in itself. Like
Yeah.
some of the best stations that I worked at were the ones where people train the hardest.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, there was days where I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to
Yeah.
PT.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Fuck, we PT'd so hard yesterday and the day before. Let's just skip today. There I had
Yeah.
those days.
Oh,
And
hell yeah.
and days
Yeah.
where you're just like, I don't want to train. Like I just want to sit on the freaking couch and just
Yeah.
zone out. But it wasn't the option. And
Yeah.
so, but the stations where everybody got in there and just really got after that stuff and embraced it for what it was and the importance of it, I think that those were some of the more resilient people that I worked with.
Oh,
And
100%.
and some of them certainly down the road. I know some coworkers that had problems down the road. I don't know if it was because of where they went or just at that time we were just all really strong
Yeah.
in what we
Yeah.
were doing, but
You know, and
it helps you get through it.
yeah, man. And honestly, I think that, and yeah, I mean, I truly see it, man, because I've seen people, man, people that are really, that train hard, man, and are really good at their job, and they show up, man, and because here's the thing, man, I've been on scenes to where we did everything right,
Mm-hmm.
everything right. Got there, we weren't delayed by responses. Everything went smooth. Tools came off the truck smooth. We popped doors smooth. We did everything, bro, but we still couldn't save somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And just that's when those hurt. I mean, that stings too, man. But like that it goes back to like knowing that we can truly say that, man, we have done and we have prepared everything that we could have done to make this outcome different. And it was their time. You know what I mean? We can't control that. So it helps knowing that, like, dude, if you show up and you know that you give 110% in your training, and you know that everything that you did, and there's times that, like, you can't change. There was times, man, right there in our little town where I worked at, man, we had a train tracks. So, man, we could be rolling to a structure fire, man. We get stopped by a train. And just as just well as I do, man, seconds matter when it comes to something
Mm-hmm.
on fire. There's savable lives. If there's something going on inside the house, man, like those seconds matter. So we could be 100% ready to go. Everybody's on cue, everybody's talking, everybody knows what we're doing, man. We get stopped by a train. Those are things that we can't control. You know what I mean? Um, but dude, I mean, I think that's what actually kind of helped a lot of those runs, because like we know, like and I had an amazing crew, man. My entire crew from start to finish, from the truck company, engine company, all the way across the board, man. Everybody was on point. Um, but like we knew that if we showed up and we did everything we could, and we know that we were trained right, we were good to go. We were physically fit. We were trained up on everything we did. We knew if we were going to a structure fire, we knew we was going to be all right. We knew we was going to get in there and get shit done. Nobody was going to hesitate. Everybody knew the role. We are going to get in there and do it. And whatever the outcome was, we knew that we put our best foot forward. And so
Mm-hmm.
walking away from that, we were good. But there were still some times, man, that we just didn't have. One of my he was my captain at the time. He's a battalion chief now, but man, I'll never forget, man. It's just like everything was kind of going against us, but like we thought for sure we was going to be able to get a good hit, but there was a lightning strike on this house, and it was up on the hill. We could see it rolling. We got there, man. We had companies stacked on top and everything. We had ladder pipe up quick, but the hydrant was dead. Wasn't we couldn't shuffle water fast enough, man, and we ended up, we lost the house. And then my captain at the time, dude, he was just hard on himself, and I was like, man, everything that we did correctly. You know what I mean? Just sometimes you just lose, and that fucking sucks. Like, it hurts. But yeah, man, whether it be a house, whether it be a life, or in there, I just think it's important as firemen to show up mentally and make sure that you're good, and make sure that you're okay with yourself, because you know at any point in time, whenever the pager drops, somebody's having a bad day. So as long as you can mentally tell yourself that you have prepared everything you've done up until this very moment, that you were good and you're prepared as you're rolling out of that truck, it makes it a hell of a lot better to deal with than if you weren't prepared. Now, I mean, there's things that and I say that for structure fires and car wrecks, stuff like that, man. I mean, honestly, like there's nothing you can prepare yourself for a young kid shooting himself in the head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are you can't prepare, and those are the runs that still bothers the hell out of me. You know what I mean? Those are the runs that still stick with me, because I know there wasn't nothing um, that that we could have done, that I could have prepared for to help that kid. You know what I mean?
Mm.
There wasn't a stoplight, a car, a train that we couldn't have got there fast enough. You know what I mean? Because like once the trigger goes off, man, it's done. You know what I mean? Like we're there, we're gonna witness it, and we're gonna the aftermath with the family and everything. And I think that's what digs really deep into those runs, and particularly the runs that's really stuck with me, and it's what bothers me. And that kid. And I'm talking of a kid, man. I mean, he was 14 years old, man, wearing little pajamas, playing a video game, and somebody was bullying him on the thing, and somebody was like, "You should just go shoot yourself," and so he did. You know what I mean? This sweet little innocent kid, and I was the first one there. You know what I mean? So, still this day, dude, that thing. I mean, it bothers me. I know exactly what he was wearing. That's like a run that stuck with me. It's been stuck with me. But yeah, I mean, those are the things that you're just like, damn, I I couldn't have done X amount of drills. I couldn't have done this, and those are the things, man, because as firemen, I think as a whole, like, man, we're fixers, man. Like, we want to fix stuff. We're there to um, put band-aids on, man, and just like save the day. So whenever we can, and knowing that that we've done everything we could and lean it up to make a difference, we couldn't. So I mean, those are the ones that sting. So I mean, I think that's something that from a mental health standpoint, for people, obviously those are certain things that we can't control. But I think from the grand scheme of things, I think if people truly show up, and they do everything that they can and do their best, then I think it's a lot easier to deal with PTSD within the fire service, because if you're at war in your mind with yourself, saying, "Man, was there something I could have done, or did I do this correctly, or did I not do this, or man, I should have done this instead of that. The outcome could have been different." Man, if you're second guessing yourself, a lot of times, those are the runs that fuck with you the most. But man, if and that's the thing, dude. Nobody, you're gonna um, you're going to have that for sure. So, but it definitely makes it a lot easier to deal with certain runs, and deal with those tragedies if you know that, like, man, this is completely out of your hands. It just wasn't that person's time. And that may sound like messed up to say it like that, man, but shit happens, man. It's out of control. Like we can't we can't write destiny for people, man. I mean, things happen, and God gave everybody choices, man. I mean, regardless, I mean, whether you look down at your phone and you swerve and then boom, you cause a car wreck. I mean, things just happen. That's you can't control, and you can't save everybody. But as firemen, we have to do better, making sure that we're ready when we're called. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, like with the fire service, for those that aren't in it and don't know, like you got to think like the fire service is almost like the doomsday prepper extraordinaire. I mean,
Yeah.
we make plans and try to make plans for every situation. You go on a call that nobody's seen before, you go back and you critique it, and you're like, okay, what could we have done better? It's like the guys watching the game footage for the
Yeah.
football team afterwards, so they can evaluate it
Yeah.
and improve, and like, oh, look what the other team did here. If we would have done this
Yeah.
or just done that play,
Yeah.
and so that's very much the fire service, where we make a plan, and then, oh, that didn't work because it was something different, and then we make a plan for it, and then another plan for it. And so
Yeah.
like when we say like, you know, we did everything we could do, like it's this literal Rolodex of
Yeah,
plans in your head that
yeah,
just of, you know, I mean, it's not even plans A through Z. It's A through Z with, you know,
yeah.
five digits after each one. I mean, it just
Uh,
keeps going.
yeah, it keeps going, dude. It's never ending because you can sit there and say, okay, point at, step 1 through 50. I did all that. Okay, cool. How come the fire's not out? Or how come, this didn't happen? Dude, there's so many variables and every run is so different. There's never, that cookie cutter fire. I mean, yeah, I
Mm.
mean, dude, you can have a small room and contents and a little, single story, 900 square foot house, dude. That very rarely happens, man. Like it's very rare that you just, you pop open the front door and then boom, there's fire spray, done. All right, let's roll up and go home. Like, dude, there's, you got hoarder houses, you got, trap doors, you got shit, you just never know,
Yeah.
man. So it's hard, but yeah, it is definitely, it is definitely a thing. And I think also in the fire service, man, because I hear it just walking around the fire service. Because dude, I've I've been on runs to where people are back at the house or at a different firehouse and they're listening to the radio traffic and you're like, what the fuck are they doing?
Yeah.
Like stupid, dude. I wouldn't have done that. But bro, you have no, what I mean? Sometimes you just don't know. And I know that from experience because I've done that. I've been there, done that. I sound like an absolute idiot on the radio, dude, but I was just like dealing with some shit. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, so it's very easy to be that, oh man, you guys are stupid or this or that or whatever, man. It's very easy to do that, but I know that definitely does happen. But
Yeah. I mean, it actually, that reminded me of like,
yeah.
I went through all my fire training and, you spend a good segment of it on vehicle fires. And so
Yeah.
they teach you how to pop a hood,
Yeah.
right? On a
Yep.
car, which, the explanation of that always sounds pretty easy, but it never works, right?
No, it
You
never
know,
does.
and
Especially when
then
it's
to
on
just
fire, you got cars around, you got people looking at you. It
yeah.
never works.
And then just to make it better for me, the first vehicle fire I ever went on, it's at the casino that's down the road
Yeah.
from the station. It's like 2 in the morning. We're not really awake, and I'm just beating the hell out of this car with a Halligan, trying to pop the hood, and
Yeah.
it's not working. And so I'm like, well, screw this. So I'm like prying it up from the sides like a tuna can, trying to get it
Yeah.
open, and the nozzle down in there, and then find out after we get it out, it's like I mean, the thing was totally involved and didn't know what it
Yeah.
was. But it was like I think it was like a BMW or something, but the hood rolled forward. Like, man, they didn't ever teach me that.
Yeah.
They never
Yeah.
teach me how to
No.
roll that, like how to pop that type of hood.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and it actually ended up being okay because the casinos got heavy security footage. So they were kind enough to give us the footage. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be
Like,
bad.
dude, that looks so bad.
Like,
But man,
I
you over
actually
wearing
looked
that.
pretty good. And it didn't take as long as I thought it did. I felt like I was on that thing for an hour, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Dude, yeah.
especially even, being on with an air pack on and stuff, but it actually worked out, which was
Yeah.
amazing. But yeah,
Yeah,
you're
but
just like, well, how do we prepare for that? So,
yeah.
we watched the video, which there's
Yeah.
some embarrassment level there, but then you're like, hey, none of these other guys that have been doing it for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years ever had a hood that opened opposite.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
we
And dude, and that's
figured
the
out
thing.
how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, whenever and honestly, man, like I mean, that's how trainings are formed, and that's how people learn. It's from
Mhm.
other people's mistakes, right? I mean, you. It's always one of those things, man. Like you walk into a hotel room, man, and you see like the sprinkler head, and it says "Don't hang shit here," right? And you're
Yeah.
like, there's somebody did that. That's why there's a warning label. You know what I'm saying?
And I've been on those calls.
Yeah, absolutely. Been there, done that, dude. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, shit happens. I mean, that's why, dude. I'm here to tell you, man. And my entire time in the fire service, like dude, anytime that there was a hood that would, that's popping there, like pop the hood. Dude, I always went right in the side and I peeled that thing up and I put the fire out first and then we pop the hood afterwards. Cause dude, I mean, sitting there, there's just all kinds of stuff. I'm sitting there and I'm taking Hallie and I beat the hell out of a grill trying to find the latch and it's got a little damage or it's or it's bent or something stupid, but nobody knows that. Nobody sees that except for you. Everybody's around like, come on, man, what are you doing? And I was like, but dude, I remember whenever I was a rookie, man, I was riding. It's same kind of scenario. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning on a fire, and like, man, we had like these like the double roll like donut for the like where we had the donut roll, and we had our bumper line, and dude, I went to grab it and it just like all fell out. It was just tangled, bro, and like this car was just rocking in driveway, and like people are looking, people are starting to come out, and I thought at first I was like, oh yeah, bro, like adrenaline was going. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I was feeling good. Went to grab that hose and got all spaghetti. I was like, fuck. I was sitting there trying to like do it. My sergeant at the time, dude, he just grabbed it and stretched it out and put car fire out. And I was like, damn. But dude, like, whenever shit like that happens, man, like you have 2 choices: either let it eat you up and like do it, or fucking learn how to do it. And like, dude, I'm here to tell you, like my next shift, dude, I sit there and I deployed that line 5 or 6 times over and over. I was like, this won't happen again. I'll make sure. And then so, that was just something, it was a habit going into my career. Like, I mean, that was very early on. So for the last however many years, dude, I would every morning during truck checks, I would open up and I would look at that bumper line. I'm like, I would make sure that it was rode properly and make sure that it was very easy to be deployed, because I was like, that shit is not happening to me again.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, man. You gotta adapt, you gotta overcome, and just learn from your mistakes, man, and figure it out. And sometimes like I used to see it, man, and not that I'm like been in the fire service forever or whatever, but man, like newer kids, coming up, I call them kids, but I mean just the newer firemen that come up, man, like they make a mistake, bro, they just shut down. They just shut down. They're like, you can't teach them nothing. And I'm just like, dude, like you gotta let that shit go, man. There's gonna be a lot of stuff that's gonna happen that like you think, because not every fire, not every wreck, not every car fire, not every propane fire, whatever, is the same out in the real world as it is a training ground. You know what I mean? Like it's not all cookie cutter like that, dude. Like there's gonna be so many different elements that happen. So like if you make a mistake, it's cool, man. Chuck it up and keep rolling.
The fight's not over.
Yeah, fight's not over, dude. We gotta keep going. Got to keep battling. I think too, man. I think just teaching people like, hey, man, bounce up, let's go. Let's keep it moving and don't dwell on that shit. And that's one thing that I saw in Firehouse too, man. A lot of people dwell on that shit, and like, dude, people. Sometimes, man, it's like you're dealing with a bunch of like 13-year-old girls. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like a drama club. Like, what are y'all doing, bro? Like, okay, cool, let's keep it moving. It's like, but it's funny, man. I wouldn't change it for the world. It's crazy. It's good. It's good stuff. But yeah, so
absolutely. Well, if people wanted to reach out to you, Spencer, how could they find you?
Man, I'm on Facebook, Spencer Hardin, or Instagram, sharden77. That I don't have no cool Instagram name, man. That's just something that they gave me. So
yeah.
But yeah, man. Yeah, anybody who wants to reach out, shoot the shit, ask some questions. I'm always down, and feel free to reach out. Anybody wants a phone number to talk. Yeah, always happy to chat, man. So
yeah, awesome. And that's been the theme of this podcast since day one. Is like everybody that's come on this podcast is always willing to have people reach out to them. They're like, sure, just let's do it. Let's talk, because we've all been through it. We've all experienced it, and we all want whoever is experiencing it to not feel alone. We want them to feel like they have somebody that they can talk to, somebody that they relate to. So if the message resonates with you, reach out and let's talk. And Spencer's more than willing to do that, and just like everybody else that's been on here, and I think it's a great thing, and it just really exemplifies the whole fire service thing too, because I mean that's why you got in there. You got in there to help.
Yep.
And your capacity of how you help people now is different as an entrepreneur, but that basic tenet of wanting to help people is still there.
Oh, 100%, man. And honestly, like, and I think like that willingness to help people and like go that extra mile for people, and just all in all, just provide value and care for people is, to be honest with you, I think is a huge component, is why I am successful in business, because I mean, I treat people with that level of compassion, just as I did, going into. Because man, as a fireman, and here's the thing, dude, and and that's how it circles around with the mindset and PTSD. It's like, man, you have to have some kind of level of compassion to be a fireman. Like, you know,
Mm,
you do want to, at the end of the day, help people. Now, there are some grumpy ass people that are in the fire service who, at some point, man, they just need to hang up the hat and go
mm,
because you know they're just like, oh, soft. You know what I mean? Just you
yep.
can't. You they bitch about every run, and it's, at that point, man, just go. You know what I mean? Just time to hang it up and just go. Go find something else to do. Um, but man, you have to have some kind of level of compassion. You have to care about people, and you have to treat people right. Just be able to just be there for the community. Take the time to go out and shoot some hoops with some kids, or pass out some fire hats to them, and just be that example. And that's what I always strive to do, and that's why I carry that into my business as well. I strive to be of value for people and just be there and show compassion. And regardless if I'm washing their house or hanging their Christmas lights, I treat them like family.
Mm,
I don't have customers. I have family members. You know what I mean? I always say, like, another customer or another family added or another customer added to the family. They are customers, but they turn into family. Just building relationships with people and just providing value, showing compassion, and overall, man, just treat people right. This world has a lot of hate in it, man. But we as long as you're doing your part in your circle and in your portion of your life and wherever you're at and being intentional with relationships, like, bro, you can be successful in whatever you do. I mean, you just gotta just love on people, man. I wish more people would love on people, and
yeah.
but there's a lot of good people out there and a lot of things, but I think it starts with you and me, man. I mean, we just gotta just love on people, treat people
Yep.
good, do right by
100%.
people. You can be successful in anything. So
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Love fixes a lot.
yeah, it does, man. It does, and love fixes the heart too, man. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
you put out into the world, man, and if you receive that, dude, I mean, you can be unstoppable. So it's truly just put out what you want, man. Put out
yep.
what you want to receive from the world, and I mean, it'll eventually come around to you. So
100%. It's
yeah,
awesome.
dude. Yep.
So just final thought. What would you say to somebody who's struggling right now and really unsure of where to turn, what to do?
Man, reach out. I mean, reach out to me. Reach out to Daniel, and just talk to somebody, man. Whether it's um, or go find some random stranger. You know what I mean, or just because I think a lot of times the stigma is too, man. Is a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm not gonna go to therapy. They don't know shit. They don't know me. They don't know my story. Well, that's cool, man. Go find travel 30 minutes down the road and go to another firehouse that they don't even know you. Just walk in there and say, hey, man, I'm a fireman, a couple hours away, and I'm dealing with some shit, man. Let's talk. Let's talk. I want to hear your thoughts. And you know, just reach out. Just reach out to people. Don't be afraid, because I can assure you that as much as tough that people want to put out, man, people are struggling, whether it be with PTSD or stuff going on at home or whatever the case may be, man. There's always been some people has hurt inside before, man. Because like I said, we are all human. We're not just a bunch of robots walking around. Everybody feels, everybody loves, everybody has been sad and heartbroken. Like, man, just reach out and just talk to somebody. All you gotta do is just ask a question, reach out, and anybody that's listening to this, feel free to reach out to me personally, man. I will honestly, I will. Don't matter what I'm doing. If somebody says, "Hey, man, I need to talk. I just need to listen and hear," I'm all ears, man. Like, let me know. I'll be happy to. I'm here in Kentucky and Louisville, but I'm always willing to jump on a FaceTime or call, or if you're driving distance, man, I'll come. I'll sit with you. I'll talk to you, whatever. Because I've been on that side of things of being not really knowing where to go and who to turn to. Because, man, I mean, even whenever, if you are in your darkest moments, man, sometimes people may not believe you. You know what I mean? But yeah, just be sure that you get somebody that listens if you're really done down that road. And because I've had people close to me that's took their own life. So that was hard, and I wish that I would have known what the hell they were going, what was going on in their mind, up until those last moments, because I wish I could have made a difference. But just don't let yourself go that far into the hole without saying something to somebody. So, because there's always somebody out there that loves you, man. Like regardless, so just don't think that there's not. So,
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
yeah, of course, man, of course.
And thanks again, Spencer, for coming on. I really appreciate you. Glad we got to connect again.
Of course.
And hopefully we'll see you real soon. Either me heading east or you heading west again.
Yeah, no, man, we'll definitely connect again. And sorry, man, my dog just came in. She's over here drinking water. She's a horse.
That's all good.
But yeah, man, it was awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to let me hop on here. And yeah, dude, we'll definitely have to do it again and link up, and I'll have to come out to Utah again for sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, we'll wrap it up, guys. Thanks for watching another episode of Freeing Your Mind podcast. Be sure to like, follow, and share. Give us a 5-star review. The more this podcast gets out, the more people we can help. Spencer, thanks again for coming on, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Thanks for having me, man.
Bye.